going live on Monday, July 1st, 2024. Just thought I'd jump on this live, guys, and talk to you about the presidential debate from last week. Didn't really get a reaction out right then and there, which I would have preferred either, well, certainly by the next day, the 27th. Then just didn't get around to it Friday or the weekend. So figured I'd go ahead and do that now. By the way, guys, I just uploaded a video before you'll see this one that was more structured around beneficial ownership information reporting via FinCEN website. That's going to affect anybody who has an entity, LLC, corporation, whatever, where I believe the threshold is 25% ownership. If you have 25% or more, you have to report via that reporting tool that I go over in the video. So just something, just a teaser out there, guys. If you have an entity, if you're part of an entity, if you think you have that kind of ownership amount, double check that, take a look at that. I don't want anybody to get caught off guard with that. And I'm no expert on CTA. Do not take my word for what constitutes reporting requirements and criterion for reporting, but look into it, check it out, use the video that I posted as a starting point, do your research, and do your reporting if necessary. So anyway, guys, yeah, debate, utter disgrace. I mean, man, it reminds me of this book I read about the Roman Empire many years ago. It was actually like a condensed version of like the actual authoritative book on the Roman Empire. So it wasn't really good. It's almost like a long Cliff Notes version that was still like 500 pages long or something. But it just talked about how the Roman Empire reached a point where the emperors of the Roman Empire were just sort of a race to the bottom. It was just a complete race to the bottom, just trying to outdo each other's depravity, warmongering, sadism, et cetera, et cetera. And of course, we live in different times. I mean, our emperors don't behave like that, at least not, not on the surface. Whereas they used to be able to get away with that shit. But anyway, it really reminds me of that. I'm constantly reminded of it by our political process, but this debate was just such a hallmark of that concept that this is really just a race to the bottom, guys. This ship is sinking, and whoever actually wants to take the helm of a sinking ship, I mean, you got to be a fucking lunatic. I mean, like, you know what I mean? Like, there has to be something wrong with you. So either in Biden's case, you're cognitively impaired, and maybe you don't know the ship is sinking, and then in Trump's case, you're just, an avaricious madman who would grab power no matter what. Whether the ship was sinking, floating, doesn't matter. But I think what I wanted to kind of point out, guys, is a general remark and then something sort of specific about the debt. But let's start with the general, guys. I mean, obviously, if you watch the debate, there was at least 4 or 5, I would say, maybe somewhere between 3 and 7, if I want to be a little safer, moments where Biden clearly suffered a cognitive lapse. Couldn't finish the sentence he had started, forgot what he was about to say, mixed up 2 different issues together, whatever the case may be. And it didn't take long. I think within the first 10 minutes, you had the first cognitive lapse where he talked about beating Medicare or whatever. I have no idea what he was thinking when he said that. And so, of course, afterwards, commentators were aghast, heard all the stories about Democrat Party in a spiral over what to do about Biden, blah, 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 blah. But the funny thing about it, guys, was that 99% of the analysis I saw was really focused on like the election, like what's going to happen in the election? What's going to happen to the Democrat ticket? What's going to happen to Trump? Blah, blah, blah. And then it was like, hey, guys, what about now? Like, what about right now? Like, the president right now is President Biden. It's Biden. It's the guy we saw on the stage who couldn't remember these things, couldn't keep these sentences flowing, who has the nuclear codes, right? Forget the election. I know no matter what happens in that election, nothing about my life is going to change. I am on a downward financial trajectory that only the most Herculean effort is going to reverse. Individually speaking, is going to reverse. But just the trends of the larger macroeconomic situation, the debt, the deficit, the interest, the inflation. I mean, pretty much all of us are headed off that cliff, right? And so that does not get affected by Biden or Trump. I mean, maybe one of them accelerates it a little bit or slows it down a tiny little bit, imperceptibly, but nothing's going to really change. So for me, it was more about like just immediate security, like like what is going to happen to this country in the next 72 hours, when other world leaders realize that the leader of the United States is not really the leader of the United States. He's mentally checked out. He's not there. I think I walked away, guys, and I'm not even speculating on this. I'm not saying this to get some kind of feedback or get somebody to say yes or no to it. I just have concluded with 100% confidence, I mean 100.0, that Biden is not in charge of the United States anymore. He's still out there. He's still a figurehead president. He may have started in 2021 as the actual president, but somewhere along the way, he has essentially been replaced by a committee. Whether that committee involves his wife or his chief of staff or Kamala Harris or whoever. I mean, whether it's 2 people or 20 people or 200 people, there's a committee running this country, and it doesn't involve Joe Biden. He's just out there as a figurehead, as an absorber, of public criticism and so forth. But he is not running this ship anymore. That is clearly established at this point. I think anybody who differs with that, we'd have to check their cognitive impairment and make sure they were okay. But I have no doubts about that whatsoever. So that was the big macro takeaway that I walked away from that debate, swirling around in my head. The other thing that I wanted to point out, guys, the second point that I just want to quickly make here, is that if you notice, guys, there was a little bit of exchange about the national debt. Now, the responses to whatever the question was about it, whatever thing they were debating about the debt, it was completely nonsensical. And I don't know if it's worse that Biden was nonsensical because he's cognitively impaired, or Trump was nonsensical because he's not cognitively impaired but still couldn't make any sense out of his response to the question about the debt. But here's the thing, guys. What I definitely noticed was that when they talked about the debt, the really big issues of why did Saudi Arabia not continue their agreement with the United States to price oil in dollars? What impact is that going to have on us? Or what is the impact of having almost $1 trillion in debt interest payments that now exceed the national defense? These were the issues that really cut to the heart of the debt problem, right? Those guys could sit up there all day long and talk about, yeah, we got 35 trillion in debt. Yeah, who cares? Yeah, whatever. I'm going to lower the debt through blah, blah, blah. I'm going to reduce the deficit by 3 trillion over the next 10 years, according to OMB, all that bullshit that doesn't mean a damn thing. All those projections are wrong anyway. It doesn't mean anything, right? So they could do that all day long, and they still weren't really talking about the problem, in my eyes. They're not talking about the interest payments. They're not talking about the fact that Saudi, from 1974 to 24, agreed to price the oil in dollars. They dumped that agreement. They didn't renew it. They have more freedom than ever. Not that they never did it before, from what I understand, but they have more freedom than ever to price oil in, Russian currency, Chinese, euros, gold, whatever the fuck they feel like. And they don't have to just stick to US dollars. So those are the really big things that, are really going to cause a problem for you and I as citizens. And there was nary a mention of either of these things during the debate. I mean, it just shows you guys, like, these debates mean absolutely fucking nothing. I mean, they're just about, they're about issues, don't get me wrong, but the issue that's going to slam you over the head, no matter whether you're, man, woman, otherwise in this country, were not even brought up. Obviously, some of the issues they talked about cut to certain groups of people or people who end up in certain situations, and those issues are certainly important to those individuals. I don't deny that. But if you're talking about an issue that affects every single one of us and is definitely coming down the pike and is going to be very, very nasty, that wasn't brought up at all. That was completely glossed over and, just like I said, nonsensically addressed by both candidates. So just had to get that off my chest, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed this little mini rant about the debate. I'll probably have more to say about the debate and the election in the coming weeks, but really just had to get this reaction out there. So check the other video out about BOI reporting if you guys are in an entity, the one that I posted just within the last hour, and looking forward to your comments and commentary on the debate as well. Thanks for listening, guys.